You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is April the 1st, 2019. With me today is myself, Carl, and no foolin' Nick.
No foolin' Nick, except I got fooled today.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, it was kind of a fool, but it wasn't really a fool. So, first thing I'd like to say to people, quitting your job on April Fool's Day, not a good idea. Now, I didn't quit my job today, but somebody in my office did. And for about an hour or two, we were all like, nah, this is just an April Fool's joke. They got us with this one.
Are they cleaning out their desk and doing the whole thing?
It went pretty far. And then he got walked out, and they're like, oh.
You took this one too far, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is our April Fool's story about how we thought we were getting got and staying ahead of the joke, and then realized it was for real, and then we were all sad.
Yeah, that's disappointing to say the least. I've never been a big April Fool's Day fan. It's just everyone's so on edge on this date. If you're gonna really prank someone, do it on a different day.
Well, yeah, because they wouldn't expect it.
Exactly, like April 12th.
Yeah, or like October 18th.
Also that day, yeah. So, anyways, welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast. We are here. We're going to be breaking down. We are a week away from the end of the NHL regular season.
And the end of the regular season means start of the playoffs.
Start of the playoffs. Yes, I thought that kind of just went. I took that for granted, is what I did, and I shouldn't have.
Carl, sometimes you just got to spell it out.
Yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, the playoffs are starting. We'll be getting next week, right? Because the playoffs will be set by the time we do next week's show. Next week will be our playoff preview episode. This week we'll be getting into a little bit of what is still to come, what you can expect. We'll be talking after our talks last week about the CWHL, the NWHL, and all of that. Some big news coming from them this week. We'll be getting into that. And we'll also be talking about some Elimination Station. We're going to eliminate some teams today. This is our last time to do that. We'll be doing that as well. Before we get into any of that, let's remind everyone, the sponsor of the Alberta Podcast Network, the title sponsor of the Alberta Podcast Network is ATB. And if you head to atb.com, you can find out all the things that you would want to know about ATB. And ATB, as you know, hockey is a team effort. ATB wants it to be part of your team from Tom Thumb and Pee Wee all the way up to the pros. ATB helps sponsor teams across Alberta. So whether you're on the ice or in the bleachers, ATB can help make all hockey possible. Head to atb.com/hockey. You can find out all the places that ATB is a part of hockey in and around Alberta. There's lots of hockey happening in and around Alberta as well. The Calgary Flames locked up first place in the Western Conference this week. Almost guaranteed. Well, they're not guaranteed. They're guaranteed to be playing the second wildcard team currently slotted in as the Colorado Avalanche. So let's start there.
Yes, we should play the music. Absolutely. It's a little early, but we'll do it.
Elimination Station.
We are in the Elimination Station already because there's a lot happening. We still have two teams, actually, that haven't been eliminated, but as you know, both of those, as I just mentioned, are going to be out east because we have eliminated the entire rest of the Western Conference, which really has the question for us then. Who should we eliminate? I guess, is anyone coming out?
From the West?
I want to redo that part. Mostly because I changed that setting on my mic And now I can see it just like always fluctuating.
Yeah.
Does it sound bad right now? Does it sound fine to you?
Oh, now it sounds good. Go again.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds normal?
That sounds normal now. Yeah.
Okay, then I think I might have fixed it, hopefully. We'll find out.
Yeah, okay.
I was just very paranoid because I could just like see it and it was very going wild. And I was like, what is happening? Let's just reset that whole elimination station part. Sorry about that.
Okay, and sorry, you're saying that we've eliminated everyone in the West so far? So someone's got to come out?
No, we have enough. So if we want to eliminate the Avalanche, essentially.
Yeah.
We have to, because we have
to take the Coyotes out.
The Coyotes have been eliminated. The Wild have been eliminated. Oilers, Canucks, Kings, Blackhawks. So.
Yeah, okay. So if we want to eliminate the Avalanche, we have to put the Coyotes back in play.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I'll explain it better on the show this time.
Okay.
Round 2.
If I don't get it. Okay.
So, Nick, we are here. We have 2 more teams to eliminate. And it looks like, unless we wanted to take some drastic steps, and we did this last season, it looks like both those teams are coming out of the East because we've eliminated all the necessary teams in the Western Conference. There's 8 teams left uneliminated in the West. The Colorado Avalanche are not eliminated. Coyotes, Wild, they've both had their time in the elimination station, which begs the question. I know that I have a biased view, continually oscillating, which will do so even more when the game starts in 10 minutes. Are you content leaving the Avalanche uneliminated with 1 week left in the season?
Oh, this is a tough one, Carl. It's tough. I think, though, I'm going to go Avalanche over Coyotes. So leave the Coyotes in the elimination station.
I like where this is going. What led you to that decision?
I think the Avalanche just have a better team. They don't have the easiest schedule. I mean, they got to go through Winnipeg and San Jose still.
Which Arizona also plays Winnipeg, for what it's worth.
And Vegas.
And gets the easy LA Kings game.
I don't know. My gut's telling me Colorado. I think they just have a better team, a little more consistent, more experience.
For sure. They were in the, less injured in the playoffs last year. Well, they are missing Mikko Rantanen right now, which is a big issue for that team. They are not missing Gabe Landeskog, however. He came back that last game, a game against the Arizona Coyotes, where the Avalanche managed to throw it away and the game went to overtime, which is a very Avalanche-y way for this to go. Avalanche terrible in overtime, lost in a shootout, or won in a shootout rather, so only gained 1 point on the Coyotes. That game, when I look at what the Avalanche have, yes, that is for sure to me, I think they're better. The schedule for the Avalanche, you replace the Wild, the Kings with the Oilers. That's the Avs off game. And their game in hand is tonight against St. Louis. So I think that's a winnable game for sure. They've been playing well, especially of late. Philip Grubauer has been spectacular. You add that onto it. If they can get Mikko Rantanen back, there also is significant talk, and I haven't seen how it progressed recently as of today, but Cale Makar very likely to be added to this team in order to make the playoff roster.
So he still needs to play in games to play in the playoffs? He
does, yeah. So one of these last 4 games, we can expect, if that's going to happen, a Cale Makar sighting. He has, wrapping up the college season, and will be able to his season at UMass and be able to make his way to NHL. So
at this point, they're just playing for the second wildcard spot. They can't get the first.
I mean, mathematically they can.
You're right, they can.
Likely no. They're 4 points back with 4 games left. So certainly mathematically they could get that. They'd place Wild or Preds at this point. I guess even the Blues have a shot. Man, that Blues team is on fire. I guess maybe it's not such an easy win for us tonight. I mean, it was never an easy win. It was never an easy win. I
was going to let you feel that way. But I think that's going to be a harder game than you think.
No, it is going to be a hard game. But that's, if you want to make the playoffs, that's a game you have to win, right? If you think
100%.
I'm a playoff team, and if you can't beat the third place team in your division, sure, they're the hottest team in that division. Maybe potentially, if you pick the right sample size, the Avs are hotter, but that's a game you have to win. So when it gets down to this stretch, if you're not winning games, I don't care what you're going to do in the playoffs. You're not going to win.
You have to be able to beat all these teams, because at this point, you're going to face the best team in the conference. So you should, if you can beat them, you should be able to beat everyone else along the way.
Yeah, well, and so we will be matched up. If the Avalanche make it, they'll be matched up against Calgary. Most likely, obviously, they could catch the Stars, but it's looking like we'll get that Avalanche-Calgary first-round match we talked about last week as well. Looking at heading over to the East, then, this makes where our situation becomes a little more complicated. Now, we have not put one of these teams in the elimination station yet. So let's start with the easy choice. The team that has already been mathematically eliminated. Let's start easy pickings first.
How did they even make it this far?
The Philadelphia Flyers have yet to be eliminated. They are the second last team eliminated this season, which is impressive to say the least.
Well, yeah, I remember 4 weeks ago when we were trying to track the teams and we both thought that we had eliminated the Flyers already.
Yeah, we just assumed that was the thing that had happened. So welcome, Flyers, to the elimination station, finally. And I know, like, earlier in the year we talked, right? Obviously, replacing their coach, replacing their general manager, a season of change for this team. How do you feel about them moving forward?
Oh, I don't know. I always say I feel good about this team, and then they come out and they don't play as well as they should, and then January hits and suddenly they're a playoff team again. They're very strange.
Well, and so even 2 years ago, right, when they finished second in the draft lottery, picking Nolan Patrick, they made a big jump that year in that lottery. So adding those pieces, this is a team that's had a lot go their way. And then you say, well, they haven't had goaltending. Now you all of a sudden have Carter Hart. And at the start of the season, we talked a lot about how if he shows up on this team and does well, that's huge. He has been everything and more. I don't think, there's probably some Flyers fans out there that are disappointed with him, but you've got to be on cloud nine if you're watching these games and seeing what Carter Hart can do.
100%. And you're wondering why they waited so long. I know it was a big debate within the team, but I'm kind of wondering why they waited so long, but it's easy for me to sit here and say that too, seeing how he's performed now.
Absolutely. But, to me, I would have done the exact same thing. I'm fine waiting on a 20-year-old. The season, sure, they waited until the season was done for them before they called them up to see what they had. And hindsight being what it is. But if he wasn't ready at the start of the year, I'd much rather take that slow play on it instead of ruining the future of Carter Hart.
Yeah, for sure. Agree. But overall, do you feel like they're in a bad place? I don't really feel like they're in a bad place.
I feel like, no, they're in a great spot. They moved out pieces that weren't necessarily going to be with them next season at the deadline, right? They moved out Wayne Simmons. They got pieces back for them, some roster pieces, some draft picks. They didn't load up on picks at the deadline. They've got an extra third from New Jersey, and that's about it. So, but prospect-wise, they're fine. And if Carter Hart can remain where he is, this team, since making those changes, since he came up, has been playoff caliber, and that's really all you can hope for.
Yeah, I'd agree. And they got a lot of youth on this team too. And I wonder if they're going to try and do anything in free agency this year.
Yeah, as it stands right now, there are 2 players on this roster, not including the backup goaltenders, that are over 30 years of age. That's insane.
It's wild. Yeah.
So you've got a lot happening with this team, a lot of potential. Travis Konechny's been a guy that I've been quite impressed with. Obviously following him, he has the Calgary connection, starting out with the Hitman here. But as a guy who has really come into his own. And as a 22-year-old, I think isn't getting enough credit because the Flyers are out of the playoffs and not in that race. But he's a guy that I would be excited for as a Flyers fan.
100%. And then you got Claude Giroux, who's still at the top of his game, 81 points this year. Sean Couturier has been great. Jakub Voracek. And then there's the defense, too, which, as a Red Wings fan, I'd kill to have this blue line.
Right, like a blue line with young guys like even you just start with Provorov and Gostisbehere.
Yeah.
Fantastic place to start, right? Then you're adding in Travis Sanheim, who's really, starting to come into his own. Radko Gudas, a guy that I like more than I should probably.
Yeah, I always thought that guy was really hated, but it turns out a lot of people wanted him at the trade deadline.
Yeah. Well, he's the guy that you want on your team.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, yeah, we've got them. And then obviously in that they'll figure out someone to back up Hart next year, but it's looking like this team's going to be good. And, they made the big splash this year with JVR, but a ton of cap space for this team next year.
Yeah. Lots. I mean, some guys that got to get done too, like Travis Konechny needs a new deal, but I would anticipated them doing bridge deals with these guys. Yeah.
And Ryan Hartman, he needs a contract.
Provorov.
The deal that they got for Nashville, Provorov is going to be the big one, obviously, but you're getting a bunch of, cap space off the books, and that's going to be good, right? You're not paying right now. They have about $9 million in backup goaltenders, so don't do that.
I do wonder though if they're going to try and extend Cam Talbot for a couple of years at a couple $1 million. Less than 4, but why not? I honestly
wouldn't be upset about it. Yeah, for sure. You're able to get him in at like you said, a couple $1 million. That's fine. And he can hold his own as a backup. So
100%.
Well, there we go. So now we're at the tough questions. Who else? There are 3 teams, essentially down to 3 teams fighting for that last wild card. Obviously, crazy things can happen. There are 4 teams? I guess the Leafs are 1 point away from locking up. They could do that tonight against the Islanders on the island, in New York.
On the island, but in New York.
On the island in New York. Thank you, Nick.
Hey, someone's got to bring the geographic expertise to this podcast.
That was honestly when we interviewed you for this role. We pulled up a map and said, "Tell us."
Yeah, I'm so much better than you guys.
But yeah, so Pittsburgh not technically locked up, but they're likely going to as well. 3 games left for each of these teams. Columbus, Carolina, and Montreal separated by 2 points from 1 to top. And honestly, anything can happen. The part that obviously Carolina and Columbus are in, Montreal's out, and Montreal's schedule is atrocious the rest of the way.
Brutal.
Tampa, Washington, and Toronto playing what amounts to the 1st, 2nd, and 6th overall teams in the league for a shot at the playoffs. And like I said, with the Avalanche, if you want to make the playoffs, you got to beat the best teams. If Montreal wants to make the playoffs, they literally have to beat the best teams, which is a preview because they're going to be playing Tampa in the first round.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. This is why I would put Montreal in in the Elimination Station, because I don't know if they're going to make it through these 3 games alive. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. Even I like that you said alive because I think, it's going to be tough because they are going to either face Tampa or Washington in the first round of the playoffs if they make it. And so that is a first round preview. So you can look at it and say, well, we have to win these. But against those matchups, it's going to be tough.
Is there a back-to-back in there?
No. And that's what I was just about to say. There is a day off in between. It's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. They're playing those games. But on the flip side, you start to look at Carolina. Carolina, easier schedule. Toronto, New Jersey, and Philadelphia to close out.
Okay.
And then for the Jackets, with a now suddenly red-hot Sergei Bobrovsky, they play Boston, the Rangers, and the Senators. So that the schedule wise, you're favoring Columbus for sure, and Columbus has the most. So like for me, it's Columbus is in, which like you're loving life.
Oh man, I would like to table a motion, Carl.
Okay,
I'd like to table a motion for us to officially become a Columbus Bluejackets podcast.
What would we call that podcast, Nick?
The Cannonballs.
Okay, because as you may recall, we have gotten legal paperwork from the Columbus Bluejackets in the past.
I don't recall that.
You do not?
No, what?
Yeah. You may recall a podcast titled The Fifth Line Podcast.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, that just clicked for me.
Yeah, right. Columbus calls their fans the Fifth Line. Not too happy with us over here for that. So
then maybe we shouldn't do that.
Probably not the smartest of decisions.
However, I will continue to say nice things about them.
Okay, you can. I'm not going to.
Oh,
but
Carl.
That's fine.
They're gonna win the Stanley Cup.
I mean, if they do, I would love to see them. They're a fun team to watch. They are a fun team. You know, I would slap a 5 on my Matt Duchene jersey and wear that around town.
Yeah. So who are you putting in the elimination station?
I got to go Montreal here as well. It's a tough schedule. Montreal's been fine lately. Like they're playing well enough to be a playoff team. They've surrounded Carey Price with like enough something to get it done. But that schedule is what does me in. Like if you were to decide between Montreal and Carolina, which one is a better team, schedule outside of it, I'd probably go Montreal just on the sake of the fact that when you really need it, I'm going to trust Carey Price over I trust Curtis McElhinney or Peter Mrazek, right? Like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think Montreal definitely has the edge in goaltending, but better overall team. I don't know if I agree with that.
I think just this time of the year, if I were to put my faith in a team that could get hot and make a run into the playoffs, it's Montreal over Carolina.
I'm picking Carolina.
That's allowed.
I gotta.
Don't get me wrong. I'm putting Montreal in the elimination station. Like they're the team that I think is out because just schedule wise, that's the way it is. I've just been, watching these two teams as of late. Montreal just playing a little bit better. Not well enough to beat Tampa, Washington, and Toronto.
Oof. No, it's a heavy workload for even a guy like Carey Price.
Yeah, I did see. So Toronto plays Carolina as well. So really, the Leafs hold all the cards for both the Canes and the Habs, and so there was a lot of folks proposing. Obviously, the rivalry is big between these two teams, but Leafs win on the island tonight, lock up a playoff spot. Then they can tank the game, right? Start Garrett Sparks, lose that game against Carolina, effectively eliminating the Habs from the playoffs, which is a nice touch.
Yeah, knowing Toronto, though, they'll find a way to blow it.
Yeah, well, they are presently up 1-0 on the Islanders, and so they've got that one down at least. So,
well, there you go. Hey, speaking of the Hurricanes, you know who they put in the elimination station?
The Storm Surge.
The Storm Surge for the playoffs.
Boo! They actually, from what I understand, they shut it down effective immediately.
Oh, is it? It's done now?
It's done. Yeah.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, it's too bad. We all wanted some Storm Surge in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know what? Maybe now, maybe they'll win and they'll just surprise us all. Maybe that's their goal.
I doubt it.
A boy can dream, Nick. A boy can dream. Let's go to Montreal.
Sure.
Welcome to the elimination station. You are a team that I don't know what to say about, really. Because unlike, we just put the Flyers in. We talked about how youthful they are. Not so youthful in Montreal.
No, and a lot more money on the books.
Yeah, so, there is, up front, on the forward core, they have a lot of youth, but none that really get me excited. Kokniemi, obviously incredibly talented. That's a guy to get excited about, right?
Yeah, but is he an elite game breaker?
No, I would not say that he is, but I would put him in with the likes of, well, if we were to make a comparison, I would look across the pond to Carolina and put him, obviously different roles, but like a Sebastian Aho-esque player in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely a top, 15 center in the future.
Yeah, and that, which is what you can hope. That's a number one center on your team, guaranteed, bona fide, and that's what you want. And so, but the rest of that team, they added Mr. Tatar, who you know quite well, and had a great bounce back in Montreal after a very disappointing trade and playoff run in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm happy for the guy. He got traded to Vegas for a hell of a return, and I think they played him in like 2 playoff games or something silly like that.
Yeah, it was not a good look there for Vegas. But he's, second on this team in points right now, 25 goals for him, doing well in Montreal.
Yeah. And then you got, of course, Max Domi, who's leading the team in points.
Which myself and friend of the show, Joel, longtime listeners may remember our friend Joel. We were having a conversation. We remember just
wasn't that long ago?
Just out of mind already. We were having a conversation. Looking back on that trade, right? He was traded for Alex Galchenyuk from Arizona. Is there a loser in that trade, or are just both teams content at this point?
I think it worked out for both teams.
Yeah, that's so rare. That was kind of why he brought it up. He was talking about we were hanging out and I made him watch the Arizona Colorado game, and he was like, Alex Galchenyuk's been like actually pretty good. Domi's been leading that team in points. It's a win around.
Yeah, it really worked out.
Yeah, so I think the biggest issue with this team now, they've been trying to find centermen, and they have a couple of them now, which is great. You have Max Domi's been playing a fair amount of center this year. You have Kokniemi. So if you can have them being those pieces moving forward, fantastic. Aside from that, their defense is something that's going to need to be addressed into the future.
Yeah, it is. I like Jeff Petrie, but you look at the ages on this team versus Philadelphia, and well, you just said that 2 minutes ago, but huge difference.
Yeah. And so
definitely going to need to address this.
Yeah, absolutely. Victor Mete, not what, he had that big I played in the World Junior bump, and then he really struggled I was very disappointed with his World Junior performance. Came back to Montreal. Not that great. I'm not sold on Victor Mete.
I don't really know enough about him. I know that he was invisible at the World Juniors. But, he's 20 years old. He's got a lot of defensemen generally peak later than forwards. So maybe he's just not ready for the NHL yet.
Right. Well, and definitely something that could be seen. They're not giving up on him, right? It's not like they're going to be trading away a 20-year-old defenseman anytime soon. He's on this team. Has been playing, lesser minutes, only 17 a night for these guys. So, bottom pairing minutes, which is, not as bad as the minutes played by Carl Ulster, which is 0. So they've got that going for them. He's not as bad as Carl Ulster. And so you look at that team and they tried to address it with the Ulster signing bust. And so now moving forward, I wouldn't be surprised to see them trying to make some more pickups, and, address that through, likely, some minor pieces on free agency.
There's one thing we know about the Canadiens is they're not afraid to make a trade. So there might be something there. But yeah, Otherwise, it's just free agency. Do they take a run at Jake Gardner? Obviously, if Karlsson hits the market, then everyone's going after Karlsson.
Yeah, they don't really have enough cap space to go after an Erik Karlsson. They've got $16 million. They have to pay Joel. Yeah, maybe they do. They would have enough. They only have 3 defensemen.
That would be the only thing they could do, though.
Yeah, they have 4 defensemen under contract for next year, and that's if you include Karl Alsner in that list. So, Brett Kulak's going to need a deal. That's going to be a minor one, and then they can see what else they have down the pipe. So
they can make it happen if they had to. I don't think it'll get that far.
No, but I would expect them to not be. If you can bring in an Erik Karlsson, that's fantastic. I don't see that happening. But free agency, potentially a trade, definitely this team could do it next year, playoff team or not.
I mean, what's going to change for them next year? Probably not much, right?
No,
So I'm going to say no because I wasn't even expecting them to be a playoff team this year, and they're kind of on the outside of the bubble. So it's a tough one to call at this point, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I would likely agree because there's not, outside of potentially a Victor Mete, outside of Kokniemi, who's going to have another year under his belt, be able to be better. There's not a lot of players where I'm like, all right, this is the guy that I'm looking to step up next year. It's like, Jonathan Drouin, not good. That's what we've decided. That's what we figured out. I don't expect more than his 50 points out of him.
Yeah. How many more seasons can you give him to develop at this point?
Right? He is who he is at this point. That's Jonathan Drouin. Max Domi, I'm not expecting more than 70 points out of him. If that's his career high, are you surprised?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and then the wild card is Carey Price because you never really know what you're going to get. When he's good, he's the best goalie in the world.
Yeah, and he's been healthy.
But when he's injured, he's not.
Yeah.
And you never really know what you're going to get.
No, not at all. So I'm probably, after doing this analysis, I would also agree, because if you look, even in that division, Toronto, Boston, Tampa are not they're the top 3 again next year. And so you're playing for a wild card, and you have to go up against those teams day in and day out. I'm not too excited for Montreal's chances.
Yeah, no. Me neither, Carl. We agree. Put them in the station.
Eliminated. Let's go to some other unfortunate news that came out this week. Sunday morning, it was announced that the CWHL would be ceasing operation May 1st, which honestly, it surprised a lot of people, not just us and media folk, but players as well. They'd heard some rumors and some rumblings, but not a whole lot of official news, and a surprising thing to come out Sunday.
Yeah, the players did not expect this. They were told very shortly before the public announcement was made. Yeah. The timing couldn't be worse because a lot of them, they were actually flying out that morning for Finland for the World Championships. So, to expect them, not to expect them, but now they're going to be expected to talk to it. And they've got, bigger fish to fry right now over in Finland playing an international tournament. So really bad timing for the girls who are playing in that tournament. And then just terrible news all around for all the players, all the coaching staffs, all the training staffs. But look, their financial model wasn't sustainable. And I don't think that was a huge surprise to anybody, really.
No, not at all. And you look, even, the NWHL, when they came in, they're younger of a league. CWHL has been around for 12 years. Some don't know they've been around for that long, and had a number of teams joining. They were up to 12 teams by the time that they had to stop. And you look at that and you say, okay, how is that not working? NWHL, there was a point in time where players weren't getting paid. You had it where halfway through the season, they were like, oh, by the way, we're slashing salary. Just no notice, you're now making half. Yeah. I guess I'm still playing, but it is difficult when you have this. And we talked the struggles of these leagues and the potential for merging, which now takes on a whole different look, right? NWHL is a much smaller league, only 5 teams as of yet, but very little in market overlap, right? Really only the teams in the Boston area. There's a team in Winchester and a team, the Boston Pride. So from that angle, not a whole lot of overlap, but potential, hopefully, for something beneficial to come out of some of these teams getting, and at least players getting a chance to come over to the NWHL.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, the NWHL, like, they have players filling all their teams, right? So even to start migrating some of these players over, yeah, the top players will easily find spots on these teams, but it's the, I think, bottom 6 players in the CWHL who are just now out of, playing for a professional team, because they're not going to take all of the players. But I do think that all eyes are now on the NWHL and the NHL to see how they react to this. Like, I could see the NWHL absorbing a few of the CWHL teams, expanding their league a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen models for women's sports be successful in all across the board. We've seen the WNBA as a model that we look at even in North America, and we say, this is one where they partnered with the NBA. They didn't just partner. The NBA created the WNBA, and now it's its own, really own standalone entity. They partner. There's a number of teams, I believe, more than half of WNBA teams are in the same arena as an NBA affiliate. Only 3 of the teams play in cities without an NBA partner. You look over, going further from that, going over to Europe. I was talking with Mike Laybourne about this, and he was explaining to me some of how the Premiership League, you may not be aware of this, there's a women's English Premier League as well. They have an equivalent league. And same thing, they partnered with the main clubs, the men's clubs rather, and were able to make a women's league out of that. And that's had success. They are financially stable, and it's gone on quite well. So you have to hope that there is a way that the bigger pockets of the NHL can support them while they get their grounding, while they start to try to sort this out. Because I do think that there is a way that they can be a financially stable and successful league.
They absolutely can. Like you said, they need some of that corporate power, corporate backing behind them. But for the NHL to step in and do it, it needs to be able to make money for them too. They're not just going to sink money into a part of the business that they're not getting a return on. And I do think there is money to be made there. I think there are revenue streams that the NHL can tap into, but they need to take that step with the NWHL and get something going.
Absolutely. And even for the league itself to say, the CWHL to turn around and say that they're not financially stable and have to shut down. I look at Calgary. They're an organization that is the Calgary Flames, right? They own the Calgary Flames, Calgary Hitmen, Calgary Roughnecks, and Calgary Stampeders. They own every professional sports organization in town. Now, you're telling me that they can't also partner with an NWHL team or CWHL team and make something like that happen? Obviously, they did partner, but you start to share those resources and pool those resources, right? They're all playing, 3 of those teams I listed are playing out of the same arena. And yet we have the Inferno playing elsewhere, right? They're playing out at Winsport, which is a great venue. Don't get me wrong. Winsport's fantastic. But, you can pull those resources and start to cut down on costs when you work together.
100%. And then suddenly your sponsorship packages become just a little more expensive. And now you're generating revenue via sponsorship, and it's giving you some dollars to work with to promote these teams.
Yeah. Even you look, I'm getting, being in Calgary all the time, and you would, I assume, get the same. The amount of emails I get about, get Flames tickets and we'll package Hitmen, Roughnecks, Stampeders with that. Those are the perks that you get. And so when you're also able to bring people into those games and get them to experience it, even if it's a one-off thing. Because the amount of people that I saw he said, man, I really wished I'd supported this league, right?
Yeah.
And you got to do it before you can't, so.
Yeah, there is a ton of opportunity. So, Gary, if you're listening, and I know you are, get on it.
Make it happen, Uncle Gary.
Colin, we should start a movie podcast.
Oh, that's a good idea, Greg. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking like a movie podcast is like a little different than other movie podcasts.
So instead of celebrating movies, we take bad movies and we talk about them.
No, but maybe we'll take those bad movies and we'll talk about them, how they can be better, how we can fix them.
Guys, I have some notes.
Yeah, what do you have notes about?
No, that's the podcast. I have some notes. Greg Beaver, Colin McIntyre, and me, Scott C. Bourgeois. We get together a few times a month and take a bad movie and try to punch it up. You can check us out right now at the Alberta Podcast Network or at IHaveSomeNotes.com.
Let's turn to some of the other topics surrounding the playoffs right now. We're looking at some of what we see, and you had some thoughts yesterday on the Red Wings' performance of late.
The Red Wings' winning performance of late.
Yeah, I've heard rumors, but the problem is, and we've talked about the issues. My Score app doesn't go down that far, so I actually can't see where they are in the standings.
Well, they're climbing them, so you should be able to see them soon.
But what is so they're winning, and you're happy?
They are currently on a 5-game winning streak. They, shortly after the trade deadline, they were second last in the league, just ahead of Ottawa. So they were 30th overall in the league. Now they've climbed to 27th in the league. They passed Buffalo last night because Buffalo lost and Detroit won. So they are climbing the standings. And a lot of Red Wings Twitter is furious that this team is winning because it is ruining their precious lottery odds at maybe, possibly winning first overall and picking Jack Hughes. And
right.
I don't agree with that. I don't like the idea of tanking. It's not fun. It sucks losing. It sucks for the players. It sucks for the fans. And then at the end of it, like, even if you do finish first overall, you have a 20% chance of winning. That also means you have an 18.5% chance of winning first overall pick. So that means, oh God, you just made my math equation so much harder.
It's 81.5% chance of not.
81.5% chance of not winning.
More than 4 times likely that you won't pick first than you will to pick first.
So, you're still going to end up with a top 10 pick. I understand how much better number 1 and 2 are than everybody else. I get it. But what we're seeing right now, and I'm talking specifically about Detroit, is we're seeing development with young players who are finally kind of reaching their potential. Like, their top line is going to be a serious threat next year if they continue to play with this. And I think winning games down the stretch like this against playoff teams like Boston and Vegas, it builds confidence in young players to know that they can beat these teams. And I think that's part of the development.
They've got a home and home coming up the next 2 games against Pittsburgh, so that'll be a huge test as well. But you said second last in the league?
They were second last. I can't remember exactly when. It was around the trade deadline.
But quasi recently, second last. That's a 13.5% odds for first overall, 8.5 from where they are right now. So even, it's dropped substantially, but still possible. If I go to tankathon.com/NHL and run the odds right now, first overall pick, it goes to Colorado.
Shocker. Wait, is it Colorado's own pick or is it Ottawa?
No, we're in a playoff spot, Nick. Our pick's not in the lottery.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so no, right now it would just be some little minor shuffling of the deck chairs with my one roll. New Jersey and LA switched. So Detroit still picks 5th.
Top 5 pick.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
Perfectly good pick. And they've got other first-round picks coming up, too, who are either just played their first season or in Grand Rapids, who are going to come up, and they're going to be great NHL players.
Well, and we saw it just last year, right? No one would have been. You look at where the Wings picked last year, 6th overall. You're like, they're going to get a good player. And then you saw the craziness happen in the draft where Philip Zadina somehow managed to slip all the way to them. Lo and behold, they've got a fantastic player on their hands.
Right. They've got what was supposed to be a top 3 pick now.
Yeah, while Ottawa has Brady Tkachuk.
Well, Ottawa has Brady Tkachuk for some reason. God, that team. We can't talk about them today.
So you're in favor of. Now, what does it mean for this team in the future? So let's say you do finish 2nd overall, right? Last year, the difference in 2nd last year and 6th, or even 5th, Brett Hayton went 5th, but that's the difference between Andrei Svechnikov or the aforementioned Kokniemi doing great for their teams this year, contributing all season, whereas Zadina has not. He's come in later. When we're looking into next year in the future, would you not rather have, I look at that and I'm like, I want that. I want Kokniemi. I understand why those fans are upset, why people are wanting them to do better. How does this year's result help for next year? Because it resets. Brand new season, brand new schedule.
For Detroit, you mean?
Yeah. Like, why do I care? If they're going to keep winning, that doesn't help next year's team, 2019, 2020, which is going to be really hard to say.
Next year's team, though.
How?
Because these players who are 25 and younger, something happens, like, mentally when you win this many games against teams that are supposed to be this much better than you. Like, suddenly, Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi and Anthony Mantha know they have the confidence now to go up and play hard against Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak and Patrice Bergeron and know they can beat them.
That hit on Brad Marchand this week was something else, eh?
Oh, buddy. Let me tell you what I learned last night / today, because I'm still getting the notifications on my Twitter feed. People hate Brad Marchand. Holy.
Let me tell you about the notifications I'm getting on my Twitter feed. People still hate Sens burner accounts. That's what I have gotten. I have been called. What did I get called? This is an update. You are not aware of this. By I would say the person that we talked about before, I won't mention his name, but the mainstream reporter that I mentioned before, he called me a boring, sad dude.
Oh.
It's fine.
Well, don't take it personally, Carl.
I won't. I find it hilarious still.
I think you're exciting.
So, okay, here's the one other question that I have for you then. Because I do agree, building that losing mentality in a team is not good, right? And obviously they proved this year they can win, but the fact that you have beaten the premier tanking team, the Buffalo Sabres, right? They won 10 plus games in a row earlier this year and just got passed by the Detroit Red Wings, dropping themselves to 28th in the standings. They were at the top of the East. Now they're all the way back at the bottom. And so I look at that, and I'm not going to say that they're there because of a losing culture, but it did not help them, right? Having that, those losing seasons did not help this team learn how to win.
No.
And so I do agree with you in that regard. Being able to learn how to win whenever in the season it happens is a benefit for those individual players.
Against whoever. The other thing it does, I think, is it opens up some options for management, especially going into the off season. You know, when it comes to bringing free agents in, I don't think they're going to go out and be able to swing Erik Karlsson. But when it comes to convincing people and selling Detroit as a market that you could win in, like, you've got these guys performing. I think it's a great lead up into the off season.
For sure. Well, the one last question I have for you in this regard: are these games that they're winning, are they playing well enough to win, or are they winning in, like, you know, you see these teams do it all the time, right? The Ottawa Senators made to the conference finals 2 years ago, and this team was not who they thought they were. The only thing I would be hesitant about is getting overly excited about players who aren't actually performing as well as they should be. Do you believe that this team is who they are in their wins?
No. there's a few things. One, a lot of the wins are just coming off the backs of 4 players. I mean, they're 4 young players. They're all under 25 years old, but it's just the 4 players.
And I assume Dylan Larkin, D-Boss is one of those.
Yeah. Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Andreas Athanasiou.
I get to keep making Athanasiou jokes for years to come.
Oh yeah, he's a 30-goal scorer now.
Perfect.
So those 4 guys have been driving all the offense. There's nothing coming from the bottom 6. That's because it's a bunch of AHL players who have been called up. They're relying pretty heavily on their goalies still. But I'd say in like 50% of the games, they've looked really good against the opposing team.
Okay. So I wouldn't
get overly excited about it. Like, I'm not going to call them a playoff team next year,
but they probably will do. There's hope for the future, at least.
There's hope for the future. Zadina's coming. You don't need to tank. And tanking is not a guarantee. I just hate the idea of tanking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not fun. As a team that unintentionally tanked really hard a couple of years ago, I can confirm it's not fun.
Yeah,
it
was like fun. Historical tanking.
Yeah, and if only we tried. I don't think a team could have tried to tank as hard as the Avalanche did that season. But we picked 4th overall, right? Like, that's the thing. We had a historically bad season, 4th overall pick. It's not that helpful.
Nothing is guaranteed.
That said, at this point in time, I think I'd rather Cale Makar than Nico Hischier. So,
right. I mean, this year's a bit more of a guarantee, but like, that's another, in terms of who the first overall pick is and what he's meant to turn into. But that's another good point. It's like, you could find a David Pastrnak whenever he was picked late in the first round.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stick with some draft talk as well. We're moving towards the draft situation and trying to pick who's going to be where, and that'll actually be happening next, I believe, is that next Monday is when the draft lottery is?
Tuesday, April 9th.
Yeah, so right at the day after this, our next podcast comes out, before the playoffs start, we will know who has the first overall pick. So obviously Nick will be tuned in. I will be tuned in, whether the Avalanche do or don't make the playoffs. Having 2 shots at that pick, it's a nice silver lining. Even having the greatest odds, thanks to Ottawa, not that bad. But what do you think? Are you content with the way that this currently is? Because we've seen some conversations around different models for picking draft lotteries. Some a lot more complicated than others.
Yeah, there's some wild ones out there that it takes me a while to get. No, but I think I just said it. I hate the idea of tanking, so I think they should find a way to entice teams to continue to perform positively to close out the season.
So does that mean that you are in favor of the aforementioned convoluted way of doing this, where the most points garnered after being officially eliminated from the playoffs is how you would rank draft order?
No, I think that's way too complicated.
Yes.
They'd have to hire a person to track that. And I think they probably won't do that. That's way too much work.
And here's something that I've seen across in other leagues, in other sports. NASCAR, and I know that they're like struggling in popularity, but they made a number of moves in recent years to make their points more fan friendly, because people were like, I don't understand what's happening. And when you have teams and fans who are like, I don't know who has the first overall pick, I cannot figure that out. I would need to quit my job, and you just can't have that happening. So, just fans everywhere quitting their jobs to follow the draft.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
I think so. What is your thought? What would you go as in favor of that? Because I'm in favor. I'm all in favor of the most points after being eliminated. I think just the side of fans needing to know where they sit is a little harder.
Okay, here's what I would do. Take a week off before the playoffs start, between the regular season and the playoffs, and you hold a consolation tournament. One and done. You put these, however many teams there are, 15 teams, in a not round robin, but elimination style tournament. One game, they move on, and then you play for the first overall pick.
Can we call it the Elimination Station? Should we be title sponsors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I like it. I would week, I love the idea. I hate the idea of making the playoffs end even a week later than they already do.
Fair.
So I would put that tournament in the off days of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Not a bad idea.
So, and I know that gets messy because you're like, disappear for 2 months and then come back. I would like, or even there is the season is going to end, I believe, Sunday, and we're not playing until Thursday or Friday. So that, I'm fine if we even just in those 4 or 5 days, right?
Or what if you do it this way? All-star game style. 3-on-3 tournament with all the teams who are not in the playoffs to play for the first overall pick.
Ooh, there would be
2 days.
There would be some angry people, Nick. There would be some angry people.
2 days, only 3-on-3 hockey.
3-on-3 hockey deciding first overall pick?
Yes.
Whoa. You are a monster. What is wrong with you?
I love chaos, girl.
But I like something like that. That's a very good idea. And it gives us something else to do, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm going to be using those days off to like really get some solid work done so that I can spend my evenings watching hockey afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
If I can skip all that and just go straight to the watching hockey and delay work until the future, it's a win.
Nobody wants to work.
No.
We'd rather watch hockey.
Yeah, that's why we watch hockey, because it's not working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something that just entices teams to keep winning.
Yeah, I like that idea. It's a good thing. Let us move to the Pavel Bure's. It's time to pick our must-watch games of the week, and this is a very, very important set of Pavel Bure's because this is the last ones that we're picking. Next week, we will be crowning a champion, the grand champion of all the games, because we're coming down to the wire. Nick, let us start with Tuesday, April the 2nd.
We're going to end up watching some wild card hockey this week.
It feels like a very wild card heavy week.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning Tampa Montreal on Tuesday.
Okay, so that'll be interesting because there's Louis Domingue, their backup goaltender for Tampa, is currently injured, and Tampa will be coming off a back-to-back. And so with Vasilevsky is playing against Ottawa tonight. Gotta think, not playing him on a back-to-back.
No,
not a smart idea. So Montreal's going to be getting not Louis Domingue. It's looking like Edward Pascal, owner of a .792 save percentage.
Oh boy,
is going to be who Montreal's playing. So this could be Montreal's chance to win.
All right, that should be an interesting game then.
Yeah. All right. Wednesday, April the 3rd.
Oh.
Not a wild card night. This is the night of playoff teams versus not playoff teams.
Yeah.
I'm thinking St. Louis, Chicago.
That's what I would do too.
Let's get back in the saddle. Big night of games on Thursday. when we're talking about games, those days you can take off, take Wednesday off to do work, spend it with your family, come back strong on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've got wildcard implications in many games. I'll list them off for you. If we're aiming wildcard heavy, Winnipeg, Colorado, Montreal, Washington, New Jersey, Carolina, and Arizona, Vegas. I'm going to assume for all intents and purposes that Minnesota is officially gone. So
yeah, and we went east on Tuesday, so why don't we go west?
So do you want Winnipeg, Colorado, or Vegas, Arizona?
I want Winnipeg, Colorado, because I'm on the East Coast and it puts me to bed an hour earlier.
You are welcome. Friday night. There's one game with playoff implications. I guess technically Dallas can still move a bit, but
we're watching the Columbus Bluejackets, possibly Stanley Cup winners this year.
Could be. Which brings us to Saturday, a day filled with hockey. It starts, for myself, Nick, 11 a.m. on Saturday.
Whew.
All that work that you did on Wednesday night and potentially on Friday night, Saturday is the day that you get started bright and early. Tampa, Boston getting this started, going all the way until the Avalanche start their game at 8:30 Saturday night.
Is this the last day of the season?
This is the final day of the season. This is the final. Now, if we want to, I'm okay. If there's a couple games we want, we can double up on Saturday.
It's kind of what I was thinking.
Because there's going to be a number of slots, right? So there's the Tampa Boston early game.
Breaks a rule though.
But potentially a second round match. So I'm not suggesting we do it. I'm just saying that's what we get started with, right? That's a game that's on. I'm not saying we watch it.
Okay.
If you're making a full day of this, you will be.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see if they play like a playoff game or if they just play to get done.
Yeah.
Canucks St. Louis, that's the second afternoon game. For a day with so many games, they really had a light afternoon schedule.
It's true.
Then we've got, for the Eastern wild card, Toronto, Montreal, Columbus, Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
For the East wild card, Winnipeg, Arizona, Colorado, San Jose.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we should definitely pick one of the East wild cards and one of the West wild cards because they're at different times.
What are your thoughts on all four of those games?
I think that Toronto-Montreal is always an exciting game.
Okay. That's in. Toronto-Montreal? Book it.
I think that Columbus and Ottawa probably won't be as exciting as we want it to be.
I mean, the only reason I'd be tuning into that one is to see if this is because Zingle and Duchesne left Ottawa, are in Columbus. It would be fun if Ottawa could be the reason they missed the playoffs.
That would be funny. Do you think they're going to get a video tribute?
No. No. On the last home game of the year, you're not spending it on video tributes to, especially Matt Duchesne, who spent 1 and a bit mediocre seasons there.
Maybe the video tribute's just going to be Eugene Melnyk talking on the Jumbotron.
It's just going to be him interviewing Mark Borowiecki again.
Oh, God. Let's move on.
Okay, so we're not doing Columbus, Ottawa.
I won't be watching that game.
Okay, skipping Columbus, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Arizona.
I think the last two are both good games. Winnipeg, Arizona, and Colorado, San Jose.
All right, there we go. We'll have 3 high-sticking games on Saturday. Because 2 of them are late. You have all day.
Yeah.
Arizona game gets started at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Colorado at 10:30 Eastern time. You have literally all day to get it done.
There you go.
So
I like it.
That'll be fantastic. That'll be very good to check out. Other things to note. The fourthlinepodcast.com is where you can go to find the high sticking scores. fourthlinepodcast.com/high sticking. At Fourth Line Podcast on Twitter is where you can play high sticking, where we can send out prizes to you, the listener. I am toying with the idea of an easier way, because in previous years, we've done every single playoff game we do high sticking for. It's a lot of games getting picked.
That's a lot of work for you.
And it's honestly, it is a lot of work for me, but I'm okay with it. I've accepted at this point. I might have found a way to make it slightly less work for me. And it requires our players, the listeners, to go to a separate website than Twitter, like a Google form to go to. If you like that idea, you think, yeah, I would do that, then send us a note. If you don't like that idea and you're like, I will only go to Twitter, we'll probably still leave both options open, but it's a way to make it just a little bit easier for you to keep track of what's happening so you don't miss out on it.
I like it.
And that way it's harder for me to miss the points as well. Yeah. There's a lot going on when there's some days where there's 5 games, and Saturday will be my warm-up. I'll warm up on Saturday with that.
Yeah, there's a few there. It's too bad we can't just build a Eugene Melnyk bot to count it all up for us.
Yeah. Who would be so sad and boring that they would create a Eugene Melnyk bot to count those for us? Pathetic. Amazing. So yeah, head to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast, where you can find all of that out. You can find us. You can find Nick at Nick Sagan 19 on Twitter as well. And he's usually posting some GIFs of Detroit Red Wings games, talking about how much he's loving this no tank, making fun of Brad Marchand.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a Red Wings Twitter feed.
Which is fantastic. If you are a Detroit Red Wings fan or you want some more Detroit Red Wings in your life, and what I appreciate is it's a realistic Detroit Red Wings view. It's not biased.
Yeah, we like to say realistic. No, never mind. It's a bad saying. Not good for this moment in time.
Okay, we'll tweet Nick, DM Nick, slide into those DMs and ask Nick what he was going to say.
It's time for us to wrap up the Fourth Line podcast show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. It's almost playoffs, so grab your Doritos, and maybe we'll see Bettman hand the cup to Nick Foligno.